Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Yori Folari. Let's take a look at the business sector this morning. In particular, you know the dollar to the naira rate. It's just gone crazy. We've never had it this way. I didn't want to say this bad. We've never had it this way. Uh, what? It's trading at over 700 naira to the dollar on the parallel market. Interestingly, the official rate is a lot more civilized, even high as it is. But what does this portend? What does this mean for business? That's going to be our focus today, and that's why we're bringing in a couple of experts to help explain it. You know what that means, but fortunately, most Nigerians don't actually spend the dollar in that sort of a way. But there are a lot of businesses that are sort of foreign exchange dependent. A lot of the things that they use, aspects of their business, has to come in, and it is dollar that is going to bring it in. So, because of this, you can imagine that it's not going to be good. Well, the two experts I spoke about earlier, Mr. Johnson Chukwu, is with us this morning, CEO of Cowry Asset Management Limited. A fine morning to you, Johnson.
Good morning. Good morning, sir.
Coming on, sir. And Mr. Muktar Mohammed, CEO, Finance with Muktar. Again, Mr. Mohammed, good morning to you.
Good morning, Uncle Yori. Always a pleasure.
Oh, thank you very much for making the time. Let me start with you, if I may, Johnson. We're sort of working it out. That is, most of us that are not hardcore business pros in that sort of a way, or finance pros, just have a general sense that it can't be easy. But the Naira slide and the implication for our economy, it doesn't look too good, does it? Could you start from there, please?
Yes, absolutely. If your currency is depreciating at the rate at which ours is doing, it certainly does not look good for you as a country. It does not look good for households and families, and does not look good for anybody in that system. Because what happens is that the value of your income begins to be eroded, or is eroded by that depreciation in the local currency, because whatever is imported good you use to consume, you can't afford the same quality of goods. And that's what also transmit into the price of even local goods, because some of those local goods have some foreign inputs. For instance, the manufacturers, some of them buy their input materials from outside the country. So you also see a further increase in inflation coming from the depreciation of the local currency. So a depreciation of the rate we witnessed is not good for any economy.
And Mukhtar, to bring you in on that same aspect, so what is it that government can or should be doing to sort of ameliorate, if at all anything, in this kind of a situation where businesses are probably in danger of folding up or laying off staff, of that kind of a thing? Are there any policy matters that can be that should be better implemented?
Uncle Eric, unfortunately, government have limited resources to be able to address the challenges that they are facing. But then again, Naira's trading at 700 in the parallel market. Is that the true value of the Naira of our estimation? You see, when you have a country that we decide to do things the way we want to do things without the rule of law, this is what it becomes. Because there's no reason why the Naira should be, in the parallel market, there's no reason why the Naira should be exchanging for $700 or $700. There's no reason. Even if you say they will have the global crisis, we must look at the corruption in the system. We must look at the speculators, how much they have that they are using to be able to fight with the government. Because what we're seeing here is speculators that are really, really doing this at the moment. It's not good for our economy, like you say, but what could government do? Government, we've been complaining since, and the monetary policy seems to be keep doing all they have to do. But unfortunately, what they are doing is not enough, because the physical policy also have to do their own. Just like you talked about job creation, you don't expect the monetary policy to begin to create jobs. It's the physical side that are dealing with that responsibility. So it's a big challenge for the government, mostly when we know that this current depreciation has to do with the supply side. when I mean the supply side, market forces comes to play, demand and supply. And what we see is that corrupt government officials, like what we got from the EFCC with the Accountant General of the Federation, seems to steal so much in Naira and then on goes to give to the Bureau de Change to change into dollars. So you can imagine where about 70 billion of about 190 billion stolen were changed into dollars. So what we're seeing now, we're seeing a lot of Naira pursuing a few dollars. So it's an economic crisis, but more or less corruption and maybe not to forget that the Bureau de Change also have been there since. They've been complaining about their inability to be doing business, and they will not just sit down there. They have to fight back. I for one think there's a lot of fighting going in. Unfortunately, the government does not have the resources to fight back.
Okay. Well, Johnson, if government doesn't have the resources to fight back, do they at least know where the problem is coming from? Of course, on the simplistic level, it's a function of supply and demand, and the dollar must be this expensive because it's very, very scarce. I think you used the word speculation or speculators earlier. Explain that a bit, please. Speculators, people holding onto the dollar, hoping that it will do exactly what it is doing now and then convert it. Is it as simple as that?
Let me start from the core of the question, which is, does the government know what the problem is? I think they all know what the problem is. Like correctly pointed, it's a demand and supply issue. And that's a fundamental aspect of the problem. As it stands today, if you cast your mind back and you look at how much did we earn from export of crude, or what volume of crude did we export? In the month of May, our total export of crude was only 1.024 million barrels. In June, it grew only to 1.155 million barrels. And the central bank governor has come out to say, look, they are not getting remittances from NNP. So NNP has counted that they have remitted about $2.7 billion in the past 6 months. So the key challenge is that we're not getting enough foreign exchange earnings. Even if you look at capital importation in the first quarter of this year was only $1.57 billion. These are the factors, well as we have a minimum demand for foreign currency. We're importing our refined petroleum products. I mean, the government has also announced that we spend about 2.6 billion naira on subsidy. That is in addition to the amount that was fully recovered. So, and that was the direct demand on foreign exchange. So, if you consider the fact that our import bills have gone up because of the increase in the price of refined petroleum products, well as our export revenue has not gone up because we're not able to produce enough crude. So you're having a shortfall between your foreign exchange earnings and your foreign exchange payment. And that's the core of the problem. Beyond the issue of speculation, speculation happens because there is clearly an undersupply. If you have a state supply, investors or rational business people will rather sell instead of hold back. But if you suspect, if you are speculating that there is not enough supply and demand will outstrip supply, you want to hold back because you expect that prices will go up or the exchange rate will go up. And in that case, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. So speculation is actually driven by when there is a perception, there is a shortfall in demand and supply.
Indeed. Well, thank you, Johnson. Muktar, among the point that was made in there, what can we do in this kind of a situation here? Because there are those who, I don't know, they're not necessarily experts. It might not be an expert projection, but some people are saying that the dollar is as bad as it is, the Naira is as bad as it is against the dollar right now. But they are expecting that by December, mark my words, so they say, the dollar will be, the Naira will be, the dollar will be 1,000 to the Naira. And now, one hopes it doesn't get as bad as that, but you being an expert, what do you think of that particular projection? The way things, if the dollar didn't cost 1,000 Naira from December.
Come again, sir. Is that for me or Muktar?
For you, Muktar.
For me?
Oh yes. Please take that. You know, I understand that Muktar for the moment is not available technically. So those people projecting that by the end of the year, By December, the dollar might even do worse and be costing up to 1,000. As I said, it's not an expert prediction, but I wanted to bounce it off an expert. What do you think?
Well, that for me is a height of pessimism. Of course, the factor that could drive that must be some other extraordinary factors. You don't rule out the fact that if the current trend continues for a very long time, we could get $1,000, 1,000 naira to a dollar. But I think 1,000 naira to a dollar by December is being extremely pessimistic. So I don't think we should get to that. Like I did earlier, if we improve our crude oil production, we will be able to stabilize the foreign exchange. And you may have observed in the past 2 days, we've seen Naira claw back. It has moved back to about 665 as at yesterday, which means somehow, which is an issue actually about speculation, when you get to a point where rational people think this is too high, and those who are holding that will say at 710, let me sell. And that also led to improvement in supply in the market, because speculation was feel at that point, wow, I bought this dollar at 480, and now it's now 710 and 720. So you see an improvement in supply, which happened in the market the past 2 days. And I think that we're going to begin to see this toggle between speculators who feel they are ahead enough to make a profit and those who are trying to buy, who would believing that the Naira will depreciate further. I think based on that alone, and the fact that if crude production can improve, we should expect an exchange rate of 1,000 naira to a dollar in December. Like I said earlier, if the current pressures continue, maybe sometime next year, we could breach that threshold. But I don't pray.
We don't pray for it.
And breach that threshold.
We don't pray. So what options are open to businesses, especially those that are that have a foreign exchange content to their operations? Just, I mean, borrowing from the bank?
Their best option is to front load their expenditure, which is also what brings additional pressure to the currency. If you think the currency is going to depreciate and you have foreign currency obligations, you try to close those obligations immediately. So they may need to take positions in foreign currency to close those obligations and protect themselves from further depreciation in the local currency. I think in terms of borrowing from the banks are actually not having so much liquidity today. There is a liquidity squeeze in the banking system, and that will certainly affect the ability of banks to extend loans to people, particularly for those who want to close their position. It would largely be done with those who have their own equity or their own cash flow to do that.
Whereas we're talking about businesses now and business owners, but the society generally, everybody in the society is feeling this crunch. Everything, pepper that doesn't have a dollar content, you find that they'll say that is the way it is. Everything, all the services, your vulcanizer, everybody, every little thing that you think does not, even the yam seller. How did we arrive at that? Are those people simply latching on and, as it were, are profiteering? Or is there some merit to their case that things are very bad? We understand that it's very bad for the business people, but spreading down into society, speculating down, is that a normal feature then of this kind of a thing?
Well, we have to recognize that the economy is interconnected. And what happens is basically that we've seen an increase in the price of the cost of diesel, which is a major fuel for transportation of goods and services in the country. So even the yam that is produced in Benue, or the pepper that is produced somewhere in the north or north central, that is coming to Lagos, have been transported by a truck that are consuming diesel. And current price of diesel is in the region of 800 naira to a liter. So those transporters have to build in that cost in charging for moving those goods around. And these marketers will have to build in the cost of that they paid in transporting those goods as additional to arrive at their selling prices. So we must recognize this interconnectivity. And again, you also recognize that look, these products, the people who are even trading those products also have to earn their living in the country, and they have to mark up their margin to accommodate the increase in their cost of living. So these are, or cost of doing business, these are factors we have to live with when you have a major depreciation of local currency, because the transmission channels are very massive.
And the depressing part about all of this is that everybody in the business sector is able to, as you said, add on to, the cost, add it on, put it to the consumer, because it's not my fault, I didn't want to, but this is what we have. The ultimate consumer is the only guy who can't say the same to his employer. So he is stuck. The guy who is going through this transition, the ordinary guy who's going through this value transition, his salary, if it was 1,000 naira, remains at 1,000 naira. Nobody is going to listen to him when he says, sorry, because of conditions, without an improvement in my condition, I now need 1,800 minimum in order to be able to match up. It just doesn't work that way. So really, in a sense, this should be very worrying, because it probably could stress the society and begin to lead to discontent, which can lead anywhere else, as you know. Well, Muktar, okay, since we haven't heard from you in a few minutes, let me just ask, following the explanation of what's going on, in relation to this, I was just going to ask that, well, it's been explained, Johnson Chukwu was explaining that, look, businesses are what they are. They are businesses. It's not a charity. So all these increasing costs of production will have to be passed on. As I wanted to know, well, this is dangerous, isn't it? Because the one thing that you can't do, the consumer can't go to his employer and say, sir, ma'am, that 1,000 naira, I'm going to need 1,800 or 2,000 naira in order to just meet up. Not to buy more, but to buy the same as what we were buying with the 1,000 naira. You can't say that to your employer. So this looks like something of a gunpowder keg if it is not, sorted out properly. Do you think that's true, or because the ordinary man, you push him to the wall, you can't push him anymore?
Exactly, and they have really been pushed to the wall at the moment. What is happening in Nigeria, where there are different type of inflationary challenges. You could have inflation that is due to microeconomy situation. You have inflation that is due to have to do with demands and supply, that economic trends. Then you have inflations that is is caused by production. What we are encountering in Nigeria now, we are encountering the three type of inflation at the same time: microeconomy inflation, demand and supply inflation, and then production inflation. So, and these are issues that cannot be resolved just immediate, and then the consumer, like you said, is going to be at the branch. But it's not only the consumers that are going to be at the branch, even the staff, because what you see after some time is that businesses will realize that a lot of consumers are not able to afford their goods and services, so they will begin to reduce their overhead costs. So then we begin to see job losses come into play. So it's a snowball effect, a negative snowball effect, that if it's not resolved on time, would completely destroy the economy. And again, it's not a rocket science to be able to solve those issues. It's just that does the government have the political will to do it? Because what we are saying now is that you cannot be a citizen, or a group of people cannot be, we call them the cabal now. The cabal have moved from the oil industry now to the FX industry, to the currency market. Is it that government is not able to fight them with all other might? Well, we are seeing the FCC trying to do that now. But I think it's an issue that the government will lay back for a while, and they are beginning to see the effect, and it's not looking good. And then also with the Russia-Ukraine crisis, with the subsidy payment, with the non-remittance to the Federation account by the NNPC, the change of NNPC from NNPC to NNPC Limited, a lot of issues that demand a very proactive and out-of-the-box thinking. But as it stands now, the government seems to be more involved in politicking. Economy has taken the backseat. And that's what is always when it comes to the election year.
Because a lot of people listening to this will recall that, look, we are in a political season, an electioneering season, coming, we're just, here we are, new month. By the end of the year, will be into 2023 when it'll be full blown. But even now, people are noting that there are people in the country that are spending the very scarce dollar that we're talking about, and not just spending it, but not spending it on essentials, spending it, on a social level, but sort of showing that we've gone beyond the Naira level. I don't have time to do counting and counting. So look, I'm dealing with dollars. That that is a situation that I just don't know what that really tells us. And let me just add, let me put something onto this particular comment. It's been said from the West especially that we could be helped if we were to remove subsidy, fuel subsidy from our books. Now that is the one thing that no Nigerian wants to hear about. Go on, Muktar. Tell me about it.
I've been on your show, I've said about the removal of subsidy, and I still stand that subsidy is a scam, not in the scam that it's not being paid, but it's a scam that you make people believe that the common man are the one enjoying subsidy. The common man are not enjoying subsidy anyway. Rather, they are the ones suffering from the payment of subsidy. Because even before the current hike, even in the petroleum price, the price of transportation has already gone up. Transportation fare has already gone up. With the current hike, which unfortunately the NNPC is denying, the Minister of Petroleum for State is denying, is going to increase the transportation fare also. And so what we are saying is that the poor are still suffering because the rich will still go in with their own car and still buy at where it's 180, 178 without, but the poor man that is taking buses, even BRT have also increased their own fare because of diesel. So you realize that the so-called subsidy is not doing anything good for the ordinary Nigeria. And again, you won't blame the ordinary Nigerian for not having confidence in the subsidy scheme because it has become a conduit pipe for corruption because government have refused to do what they have to do. So that's why Nigerians will say, look, we still want to be enjoying the subsidy, but it's not doing us any good. You can imagine this is the first time in the history of Nigeria. We have the Gulf waterfall during the General Ibrahim Babangida time. We saw our earnings goes up. We had this fall also during Goodluck and Billy Jonathan time. We had our foreign reserve gone up when oil was selling for $100, over $100 per barrel. This is the first time in the history of Nigeria we're having oil selling above $100 per barrel, and Nigeria is not enjoying from it. So we are rather suffering from it. We are even praying that it goes down because it's not doing us any good. So the challenge here is, does government have the political will to take this decision? I don't think so, especially in an election year. So they are going to leave it for the next administration to come and sort out. But I can tell you that subsidy is not doing our economy any good because when you are talking about 6-point-something trillion to be used in subsidy, and the annoying thing about this is that it seems that even during economic downtime, Nigerians seems to travel more, Nigerians seems to buy more car because the subsidy fee just keep going up. So it's a challenge, and I think the government should rise up to their responsibility. If it's an NNPC Limited, why is NNPC still the sole importer of petroleum product into the economy? So it's, into the nation. So I think it's an issue, and the government, as it stands, like you rightly said, we are in a political year. Nobody wants to rock the boat because the ruling party want to continue in power, and the opposition party want to capitalize on it. But I can tell you, any sensible government that comes in will always think of, we should remove subsidy. And the other way is that government should take a bite of their revenue, because if we recall, they keep saying that the price of the refined petroleum products tend to jack up immediately it comes into the Nigerian water. Is government ready to take a bite of their revenue? In developed nations, we have seen Ghana, even in our brother Ghana, doing it. They're increasing their allowances by 15% for their civil servants without being taxed. Why is Nigerian government still taxing petroleum products if you know that this scheme is biting hard on your people? Is that not another way to go? Can we begin to help the people by saying, for now, we will suspend value-added tax on this, on that, so that this can bring down the price of gas? And that is what is done in developed world. America are doing it, the UK is doing it, the European Union economies are doing it. We should not be an exception, especially when we say we're in a global market, what is happening is globally. So we should address it the way those other countries that it's happening to globally are addressing it.
Okay, one moment, please. First of all, Mr. George, apologies. Thank you very much for holding on all that while, but I wanted Muktar to land. Please go ahead now.
Thank you, Uncle Yori. Please let me start from where Mr. Muktar stopped. The issue of subsidy, Uncle Yori, to me, subsidy should not be removed. What should be removed is the corruption in subsidy. They told us we are consuming how many million liters of fuel in a day. We know that we do not consume up to half of that. The corruption in it is forcing the government to pay more than what it should pay for subsidy. And that is what should be removed from it. There is no government anywhere in the world that does not subsidize, life for its citizens. Even America, the experts before you, they know about it. Otherwise, what is the essence of government? The corruption that is what should be removed. And then, we should not be addressing the effect of a problem without addressing the cause. Here is a country that has been given an OPEC quota, and we are not able to produce half of what we have been given. And why? Because it is oil theft. Here is a country where you have two exchange rates. People will buy from one and go and sell it in the other and make a difference of almost 300 naira per dollar. What is the reason for that? Bridge it. We are making room for people to make money at the detriment of the poor. Those are the causes that we need to address. I'm very surprised that in a government where we have a Professor Oshibajo as vice president, we have all our heavyweights in the financial sector in the Presidential Advisory Council, Presidential Financial Advisory Council. What is their input to all this mess in our economy? I don't know. Let us address the cause of the problem rather than the effect. That's where the issue lies. Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. George. Thank you very much. Muktar, when George was speaking, he spoke about the dual rates that we use. Maybe just could you briefly go over why we have a situation where it's 700 naira, on the parallel market and 400 naira odd, on the official rate. And as he said, there might be some privileged people that are buying from the official and simply selling on the parallel market. Just very briefly, go back to how this evolved.
And it evolved during the same General Ibrahim Babangida time, then also Abacha, and then when we had the Burundi change. Remember, some time ago, we had just 10 Burundi change. From there, it went to goes as far as 100 and something. At the time the license was revoked of Burundi change, we have almost 300 registered Burundi change with the CBN. That's to tell you that it became a conduit pipe for corruption. It became a conduit pipe for illicit funds to come into the country. And even we had issues that were investigated by the United Arab Emirates, whereby Burundi change were the conduit pipe for corruption, for terrorism funding. Even the government have acknowledged that. So that is the challenge. That is the biggest problem. That was the biggest monster that we refuse to address. Order. There is no reason. There's no part. There's nowhere in the world that you have two exchange rate. It's only in Nigeria you have two exchange rate. You have the one that's we can call the street exchange rate, and you have the government official exchange rate. There came a time whereby both were uniform until the pandemic and also until this Russia-Ukraine issue. Is it something that could be addressed? I still believe that it could be addressed to bring it to uniform exchange rate. If the government, especially the CBN, hands off this foreign exchange market and give it to the commercial bank. If the commercial bank can attract Eurobond, that means they can attract so much FX into the banking system, create their own decks for FX, just like what we see the Burundi change do, create a window for them. What we're seeing now with this current hike in exchange, I mean, the way the current difference, especially in the parallel market, is because those people that are being addressed by the Burundi change, especially those people that need $1,000, those that need $2,000, the government, after the suspension of the Burundi change market, have not created an avenue for them yet to be able to assess effects. And that is the major challenge that they're having now. So until create that, we will continue to see this up and down. What we are seeing now might not last too long, because what we are hearing is because the EFCC is beginning to go after some of the Bureau change. And so they are now moving their fund from Kano to Lagos, and very soon they will move it from Lagos to Abuja. So that's to tell you that it's all about speculation. And like somebody rightly said, how many ordinary Nigerians have a dumb account?
Exactly. Okay, Mazi Okorafor, apologies for keeping you waiting. It's one of those kind of issues where we have to sort of wait to, hear what our experts are telling us. And by the way, Mr. Johnson Chukwu, CEO Cowry Assets Management Limited, has had to leave. He was going to leave at 11:30. So, Mazi Okorafor, good morning to you, sir.
Good morning, sir. Good morning, Mr. Muktar. Sir, look, American president last month, he requested for support for his people. Why? Because of looking at the exchange rate. Now, come back to Nigeria. Bureau de change are now dominating everything that has to do with all this dollar. If you go to the bank, the same bank will direct you to Bureau de change. When you go there, you are buying this share to carry the bank. Why? So these are the problem in Nigeria, because the Apex Bank, the Apex Bank is not being meaningful. In Nigeria today, kerosene is 800 naira per liter. Must it be? Now, what happened to the Mohammed refinery we have been talking about? The government went against access to people who are not competent to run it. Those boys have been arrested by the Navy, police, DSS, and the. Why did the government put them into use and give them that license? So the government, as long as the cabals are still there in NFPC, my brothers and sisters, we are just wasting our time. Subsidy or no subsidy, Nigeria, we got. The government is subsidizing this. Let us say very sure that, because if you go to Sudan, what happened to Sudan? It's because of oil and bread. That cost competition. If you go to Sri Lanka, because of bread and oil, now why is it that Nigeria is an oil producing country and people are suffering? I was discussing with one of our lecturers in our boardroom this morning, not up to 30 minutes. I said, which one is it? He said, no, they cannot go to kerosene because kerosene is using charcoal. I said, okay, if they are using charcoal, how do you put on the charcoal? He said, you're using leather or rubber. I said, do you know what you're using? It's transcendental to your head. He was confused. Now, these are what 70% or 60% of Nigerians are sitting. And Nigerians are sitting down there looking. Is it the Nepal land they are going to use to cook? Because all those are very, very expensive. So, let's all go back to the basics and stop depending on importing. When you go to the heights, they bring our crude oil and go to the heights and refine it and come back to Nigeria and start exploiting the masses at the detriment of the masses. Why must we suffer for what we have in this country? God has given us everything free of charge. But the people at the end of the face don't want people to survive. Why must it be so? Well, God is what I tell people, and I'm still repeating it. Whatever anybody saw in this country, they must repeat. Or your children will repeat. Good morning. Good morning, my brother. We'll carry the discard. Okay.
Thank you very much, Mazi Okorafor, a quite angry Mazi Okorafor. And one can understand it as a matter of fact, because I was making the point earlier, the end user, the guy at the bottom of the whole thing, he's the guy who picks up all of the slack. There's no relief. There's no let up anywhere. Power, your power generation, they call them, the generating companies. They must pass on their costs. So power is becoming more and more expensive. Although depending on where you're living, it is said that it is better nowadays. So we have a situation where the ordinary man is not getting any respite at all. And Muktar, you pointed out that all these things we're talking about, the affluent of society, never mind how they became affluent, it doesn't bother them. It is the very, very base of the pyramid that is suffering. Everybody else who has some connection or the other, if you like, turn the thing to 300 naira per liter. You still say, fill the tank of the cars. I'll send 5 of my cars to you. Fill all of them. So this is a problem. But let's hear it from Elder David, who has called in now. Good morning, Elder David.
Thank you, sir. Yori, God will bless you.
Good morning, sir.
I will like this your program.
Thank you.
The issue of Naira side did not start with this government. It has started a long time ago.
Yeah.
Yes, let me tell you. Nigerians should praise this present government. Yes, I said they should praise this present government. There's true democracy. The issue of whether Naira is increased, does it start today? Nigeria started borrowing money from 1977 when Obasanjo was head of state. Remember? Yes, that is the time it starts. The issue of increase in petroleum projects, you could remember 6 of June 2000, there was a total lockdown when Oshimole respected person was detained by Obasanjo government. Yes, and yes, it's increasing. The time of Jonathan, the petroleum were also equally increased. So when you say Naira is increasing, is it only Nigeria? You know the respect I have for this government. I also people are saying, don't increase petroleum, remove subsidy. The same people who decide the government to remove it. They don't bless Buhari, they don't bless this present government. He said we will not remove it, government will suffer. Yes, because all over the world there's deception. If Naira is 700 and it's not the government that caused it, go to Britain, they're having their problem. Go to America, they have their problem. Nigeria, just people are not grateful. This government is too democratic. And I respect them, they are always, I'm always. Let them pray for this government.
All right, then.
Let me tell you, this government will rule for the next 15 years. By the grace of God, let nobody deceive us. Let nobody deceive us. We are mysterious. Let them pray the APC government. There are people that listen to people.
Well, thank you very much, Elder David. Well, Muktar, that's one person that sees it, an alternative view. And that's why we should bring these views. One person is seeing it that, look, if only we knew there are things that are praiseworthy in the way this government is managing the economy. I believe, yes, it was Mr. George, I believe it was it Mazi, who spoke about the managers of our economy that is supposed to be headed up by the Vice President's office, wondering what it is that they are doing. Is it that they know what's going on, they know what all the indices are, but there just is no wiggle room? Is that the case?
Uncle Yorin, I don't know how the elder got his praise from this government that meant exchange rate at 190 or 192. And at that time, the IMF told us that our based on our economy indices, remember then the war was, they came in when at the point oil price was about $40 per barrel. And we were going into recession at that time. And the IMF told us that our exchange rate is supposed to be pegged at 250 Naira for the dollars. Then current President Buhari refused and said he is not going to devalue the Naira. And he waited so long for about 6 to 7 months. And before we knew it, the Naira went as far as 300 before we now stopped at 360. So when you are saying that it's not the fault of the government, in economic terms, you need to act fast. When you need to act, it's not slowing, just waiting down there. Now, he's talking about other governments have increased oil price. I keep saying it, the best opportunity we had to have careful with this monster was not taken advantage of, and that was when President Jonathan increased the fuel price at that time to 143 Naira per liter, and at that time exchange rate was still about 200 and something Naira to the dollar, and we were selling oil at above $100. At that time, we're trying to build up our reserve for times like this. So when you say that this have not started, doesn't mean that it should continue. The whole idea of bringing a government in is to change the perspective of the people and to begin bring down the suffering of the people. So I totally do not agree with what he just said, that this government have done so well. Economically, this government has not done well. If not for the ingenuity or the of the CBN, whereby the monetary policy seems to intervene in areas that they are not supposed to intervene, the economy would have been worse. CBN is supposed to be a monetary policy committee, but what we have seen, the CBN has even gone into physical side, trying to gear up the wheat, farming, rice production, RX 2000. Those are not things that the CBN should be getting itself involved. It just told you, it just make you know that the government has not been doing anything, especially the fiscal side. So I totally don't agree with him.
Okay.
For the removal of subsidy, I agree that I stand by it that subsidy is a scam that is not doing the ordinary man any good. Rather, it's helping the rich, like you rightly said. How many Nigerians can afford 3 or 4 cars? You just need to look at the entourage of our government officials when they have 5 to 6 cars. Who is following them? On which account are they following them? It's taxpayers' money. So we must call it spill a spill.
There's no sense of scarcity of resources, let it be said, among the governing class. They continue as usual.
There's Let me tell you what is happening.
One moment, please. I beg your pardon. Please, I'm sorry for interrupting you. But Benga has called in from Abuja, so I'll come straight back to you. Good morning, Benga in Abuja.
Good morning, Mr. Yori. Good morning, Muktar. I'm on the same page with him on the issue of subsidy removal. It's it's overdue for us to remove subsidy. But for political reasons, the government did not want to do it. They plan to do it early this year. Then when NLC came in here and there, and they look at the political atmosphere that the opposition will use to work against them, they tried to step it down. But it's not benefiting anybody. Majority of this petrol are taken outside the border, benefiting the something. Look at the kerosene that aged women are using to cook in the village. Is 800 Naira per liter. I mean, and nobody's talking about it. NLC not talking about it because it does not affect them because of their chain of vehicle. Unless we rise up today to face the reality of subsidy, we're going to face this problem. The another thing is the banking system. A lot of corruption are there. When the banks say, they say, okay, go and collect money from the bank for traveling allowance, the traveling this and that. People went to bank with fake traffic documents, fake ticket and the rest. Government published their name. What happened to it? How did these people get the money from the bank? It's bank staff that send people to go and collect that money and they share the profit. So until our system is forged on this, I think we're going to have this problem because when government say want to help the people, I say, okay, go to the bank and collect social amount. I'm an importer. I buy from China. If you submit your form today, you can only get $25,000. Let me tell you, Mr. Yori, for the next 1 year, they will say it shall not reach your turn. You'll be forced to go to black market and go and buy dollars. As an SME, it's not helping us. So why? Because of the current idea. Some people are getting that money every day through one document or the other, they forge, and they go to the black market and go and sell it. Until they bridge the gap between the black market and the official rate, this thing will not end.
Indeed.
I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Because last night, if I have $1,000 from the official, I go to the street, I make 100% gain. Cool, without stress. It's a business people are cashing on in the banking sector, both the CBN staff, both the banking, they are into it. I'm telling you,
I can see,
and that's because of this thing. Thank you.
Thank you very much for calling in. I could see Muktar agreeing with you there. And Muktar, the problem is further complicated, is it not, by inflation. We're experiencing inflation here. I don't know. Where is that coming from? Is central bank printing money?
No, I think this current inflation rate has to do a lot with current trends globally, especially in the increment in gas. That's what is, so production all over the world, costs of goods and services have gone up. In the United States, as we stand now, their inflation for the first time, 40 years high at 10%. So what it means that for every dollar to make any value for an exchange of a dollar, you have to make up to 15 to, in their own economy, yeah, so they have to make up to 15% to be able to meet up with inflation of 10%. So it's all over, it's globally, and that is why we are seeing those inflationary figures. It's not going to change anytime soon. But what we are seeing is that countries all over the world are coming up with indigenous ways of solving their problem, looking at their people, what do the people value more, and then in that area, the government begin to subsidize. So that's why we are saying that subsidy as it stands is not beneficiary to every Nigeria. We need to look at other means that will touch every Nigeria, and so that whether the rich, whether the poor, whether the bottom will benefit from it. What stop government from saying, okay, electricity, they are still thinking of even increasing electricity tariff anytime soon. The same government that the people are suffering, same government is saying that we want to add tax into your telephone call, your data. So it just shows that the government is not in tune with the reality on ground. The reality on ground is that government everywhere is giving handout to its people, is giving palliative to people, is touching everybody. So Nigerian government need to think out of the box and see how they can solve our problem. Look, the last caller was talking about meeting up a lot of issue, and I agree with him totally. The only thing that you see government meets as it stands now is PTA, basic travel allowance. You go there, they create a system that make it easier to you to even access that easily through the CBN portal. You can access that. That is school fees. Yeah, who travels? Is it the ordinary Nigerian that travel? Who pays school fees abroad? Is it the ordinary Nigerian that pays school abroad? So you need to look inwardly. You need to begin to look at the people at the bottom. What we see in Nigeria, our economic approach has never been from the bottom to the up, which is the normal approach in any economy. You start from the bottom so that you move those from the bottom into the middle class. And by the time you have enough of middle class, then you are beginning to solve unemployment problem. You are beginning to solve a lot of problems. So for me, as it stands now, you talk about the economy team. The economy team is just an advisory team. Okay. I mean, that's why they call it economy advisory team.
We're gonna. So, I beg your pardon, Muktar. I beg your pardon. I'm sorry. We've run out of time, but thank you very much because it seems that what you said is that we need to get a lot more creative with our financial engineering, and that's what governments are all about. We've seen this one now. Let's see what happens the next administration. But thank you very much, Muktar, for coming on, and CEO Finance with Muktar. And before you, we also had Johnson Chukwu, CEO Cowry Asset Management. Thank you very much, both gentlemen, even though Johnson has left. Thank you very much, Muktar. That's our program today. Please join us tomorrow for a fresh edition. I am Yori Folarin. Bye-bye for now.